Did any show of hands? Did anybody see the sunset last night? Oh my gosh, it was beautiful, wasn't it? Oh, God was like showing off that gorgeous sunset here last night. And frankly, I needed that sunset because the day before was a train wreck. Let me tell you about it. Friday, I'm not sure if you're aware that all of our stuff and our 2 pets are already in San Angelo. Because of the way that the pastor who is following Kathy at Cedar Creek needed to get into the parsonage a little early, and so the dominoes fell, and the place where we were going was already vacant, and so we moved a week early. So our stuff is all ready in San Angelo. We went on Thursday, and so Friday morning the truck arrived, and we started moving in to the parsonage, the district parsonage in San Angelo. And about the time that the movers finished unloading the truck at about 2:30 that afternoon. By that time it was 1:06 in San Angelo. We went to dinner about 2 or 3 hours later. 3 hours later, we went to dinner. The pastor from Brady and his wife, who are good friends of ours, took us out to dinner. That was awfully nice. And so by that time, the temperature was 110 in San Angelo. So we went to dinner. We had a great dinner. We came out about 8 o'clock, and the skies were dark already, and 7:30, so like it matters. And the skies were dark already, and that front was moving in. The temperature had dropped about 20 degrees by then, and then the wind started blowing, and it rained like crazy. The little rain gauge that Steve Purdy had stuck in the ground there, which is still there at San Angelo, the next morning recorded 3 3/4 inches of rain. So it rained almost 4 inches. The wind blew 50 miles an hour. The power went out twice that night. And it was like, welcome to West Texas. So God owed me a sunset, I'm telling you. Let's pray. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. I want to read again a couple of verses from Philippians chapter 1. This is Paul's letter to the church at Philippi, and you can hear his great love for that congregation, and that's what I think of when I think about you. Beginning with verse 3, I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you, because of your sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. That's what I think about when I think of you. I have joy in my prayers for the time that we have spent together. It's been too short, but it's been blessed. It's been wonderful. I've got to say that I have joy in my prayers when I think of you, because here at First UMC Seguin there has not been a hint of controversy, of struggle. It's been joy serving together. Now, that not to say that we haven't had our challenges, we always do, but God has been faithful, and you have been faithful, and I think it's because of our sharing in the gospel from the first day until now. And so I am thankful to God for your faithfulness. I'm thankful for your generosity And I don't just mean your monetary generosity, although that is significant, but I also mean generosity of your time, generosity of your hearts. Whenever we've asked something new of you, let's try this new ministry, let's go to this new place, you said, okay, let's do it, let's try it. And we would go and we would do it, we would work together. And that's just been such a joy. I have joy in my prayers because of your generosity. I have joy in my prayers because of your service. We do so much for our community, and not just locally, but also beyond that. When we went to Laredo together, we've gone to the Valley to do Home in a Week. We've worked on Habitat for Humanity houses here in Seguin. We've worked at the can't think of the name of it, 2 blocks from here. Thank you. Christian Cupboard. There's so many ministries like that we've done together, and I have joy in my prayers every time I remember you. I have joy in my prayers because of the way that we work so beautifully with our fellow United Methodists here in town. The Tri-Methodist, not just that we worship together, but this whole spirit. We did Vacation Bible School together with La Trinidad and with Wesley Harper, and they're here on the first Saturday of the month when we feed the homeless here. They're here when we do mobile food pantry. We are there when they do ministries, the Easter egg hunt in the park and those kind of things. We have such, I hope you know how rare that is and how beautiful it is for churches to work together and to love each other the way that our 3 congregations love each other. And I'm so excited for Clear Springs initiative to really get going. And I don't know what you have to call it, Quad Methodist then or something, but they're also going to be a part of this fellowship, and I'm excited about that. I'm so grateful for your faithfulness all the time, and that's what every time I'll remember you in my prayers with joy for that. I'm so grateful for what we call the Bar Association. That's Bill, Andy, and Ron. These 3 years working together has been uplifting. We hold each other up in prayer and in love all the time, and we know what a blessing that has been for us. And I hate to use the word rare, but it's really been special. It's really, really been special, and I'm going to miss you guys a lot. If Ron and Kathy and Mel have half the chemistry that we 3 have, you're going to be in great shape. You're going to be in great shape. And I have joy in my prayers when I think about the great people of this congregation. I can't start naming you because then I would leave somebody out. But there's been so many of you that have been good friends. It's been a joy to play with you, to pray with you, to sing with you, to serve with you, and even committee meetings have been pretty good. And you know I don't like committee meetings. I'm going to a job that's probably has more meetings than the one I'm leaving. I don't know how I did that. But we'll get through it. And I have joy in my prayers for you because of your great faith. These last 3 Sundays with you, I've been doing a short series on faith, hope, and love, but I took them in the opposite order. 2 weeks ago we talked about love. Last week we talked about hope, and today we're talking about faith. And there are a couple of stories in Mark chapter 5 that we just read that I want to remind you of, that I chose to talk about faith, because the 2 persons in these stories are incredible exemplars of faith. And so I want to look briefly at these two stories. It begins in chapter 5, verse 21, where Mark tells us that Jesus returned across the lake. So he was doing ministry. If you want to read earlier on in chapter 5, you can see what he was doing. And he returned across the lake, presumably returned to Capernaum, which was Peter's hometown, which had been their base of operations. And as soon as they got out of the boat on the shore, a crowd gathered like it always did and was pressing in on him. And a man named Jairus was a leader in the synagogue, came up to Jesus, and he fell at Jesus' feet. He fell at Jesus' feet and he begged him. Let me see if I can find it here. My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live. Jairus showed such faith. First of all, he threw himself at Jesus' feet, a position of submission. Submission to the authority and power of Jesus. And then he expressed his faith. My little daughter is sick. She's at the point of death. Please come lay your hands on her so she may be made well. He had incredible faith that Jesus could heal his daughter even though she was deathly ill. And so Jesus agreed to go with him, and they turned to go towards Jairus' house, and the crowd was crushing in upon them as they went, as they tried to make their way through the crowd. And there was a woman in that crowd. Mark never gives her a name. Is that Rain? Blessed Rain. Thank you, Lord, for the rain. There you go. We'll take it. We'll take it. There was a woman in that crowd who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years. Can you imagine having that affliction for 12 years? And Mark says she went to the doctors, and the doctors just made it worse. And she'd been suffering for 12 years with this affliction. And as Jesus was trying to make his way through the crowd, she was one of the ones pressing in. And she said to herself, if I can just touch his clothes, I will be made well. Do you see her incredible faith? If I can just touch his clothes, I will be made well. And so that's what she did. She pressed in on Jesus, and she reached out and she grabbed a hold of his cloak. And immediately her hemorrhage stopped. And the affliction, the disease, whatever it was that was causing this hemorrhage, also stopped. It was healed. And she knew it. She could feel it, that she was healed. Jesus felt it too. Jesus felt it too. He felt the power go from him. The power, he felt the power emanate from him, is what Mark tells us. And so he stopped and he said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples were like, are you kidding me? Look at all these people pressing in on you. Who didn't touch your clothes? But Jesus knew. He said, someone had touched him in faith and received healing. And the woman came forward and said, it was me. And she told her story. But what did she do first? She threw herself at his feet. Again, this posture of submission to Christ. She threw herself at his feet and said what had happened. And he said, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. The story then turns back to Jairus. We didn't read this part this morning, but starting with verse 35, we turn back to Jairus. And as Jesus turned his attention back to Jairus and they started to go towards Jairus' house, a servant came from Jairus' home and said, said, "It's too late. Your daughter has died. Don't trouble the master anymore, because the girl is dead." But Jesus said to them, "Do not fear." Oh no, wait, I went too far. Jesus said, "Your daughter is." I'm losing it. Here it is. Jesus said, "Do not fear, only be afraid." Do not fear, only believe. All right, I'll get it right in a minute. Do not fear, only believe. And he said, "I'm going to go with you. The girl is not dead. She is just sleeping," Jesus said. And so they went. He took with him Peter, James, and John, and they went with Jairus to his house. And when they got there, the mourners were already there, and they were weeping and wailing. And Jesus said to them, "What a fuss you're making. Why are you making such a fuss?" And they said, "Well, the girl is dead." And Jesus said, "She's not dead. She's merely sleeping. Let me go into her." And then I love this part of the story. Jesus takes the girl's parents, the mother and father, just the three of them, and they go in to where the little girl is lying. And Jesus takes her by the hand and says, "Talitha cum," which is Aramaic, and it means, "Little girl, get up." And she woke up, and she got up, and she was not just alive, but also healed of the disease that had afflicted her, that had caused her death. The great faith shown by Jairus, throwing himself at Jesus' feet, and the great faith of the woman with the hemorrhage, touching Jesus' cloak, and then in thankfulness throwing herself again at Jesus' feet. One of the things I love the best about this is when they came and told Jairus and Jesus that the girl had died, Jesus said, "Do not fear, only believe." Because you see, the true, I want you to notice that Jesus did not say, "Do not doubt, only have faith, only believe." Because Jesus knows what we all should know, that the true opposite and enemy of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is fear. If we really have faith, if we believe that God is God and that Jesus is God's only Son, if we trust that Jesus has power over our lives, if we have hope in the promises that Jesus has made to us, that God has made through Jesus, if we have that kind of faith, what can we fear? Nothing. We can fear nothing. Do not fear, only believe. Now I want to go back to Philippians and read a little more from there. In verse 6 and 7a, Jesus says to the people, "I am confident in this, that the one who began a good work among you will bring it to completion by the day of Jesus Christ. It is right for me to think this way about all of you because you hold me in your heart, for all of you share in God's grace with me." That's what I think about when I think of you. When I think of you, I'm confident that the one that began a good work in us will bring it to completion. That it matters not who the head pastor is. And in fact, it matters not completely who you are. It matters more who God is and the work that God is doing in us and through us for our community. And so I am confident that God will continue to bless you in the next season of your life as a congregation. Because it is God's work that we do, and it is Jesus Christ whom we serve. So I want to close with the last 3 verses of this passage from Philippians. It's Paul's prayer for the Philippians. It's Bill and Andy's prayer for the Seguinites. And this is my prayer, that your love may overflow more and more with knowledge and full insight, to help you to determine what is best, so that in the day of Christ you may be pure and blameless, having produced the harvest of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, for the glory and praise of God. Amen.
Amen.